Hello there, and welcome back to the Net Report. Chris here, and today we're going to be going over NFL Week 1 and all our overreactions. We have a ton of things listed that we're kind of overreacting to, and some of these may reign true throughout the season. Some of them may just be overreactions. We're first going to start with one I don't know, I might wholeheartedly believe this one, but Carolina looks bad. Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers look terrible, and like you put in that Google Doc, Jacob, they might go 0-17. Tell me what you saw in that game because it was rough.
Yeah, I mean, they quite possibly may be the first team to go 0-18 in NFL history because they're going to find a way to lose their bye week as well. Coming off just a disastrous year one for the number one overall pick, Bryce Young, I wouldn't say I had high expectations for him this year, but I thought, okay, year one jitters, got him out of the way. Maybe we'll show some development year two. He has more competent receivers, I say. They went out and got Deontay Johnson. He had a QBR of less than 11, though. Didn't even
Mm-hmm.
complete 50% of his passes. Threw up two interceptions on the game. Like, just in general, they really couldn't get anything going offensively. They kept turning the ball over and putting their defense in bad positions. Wound up getting just absolutely blown out by the New Orleans Saints. And I saw nothing to believe that they can beat a single team in this league, even on any other team's worst night. They stink.
Their
They're
their
terrible. They do.
their best chance might be in Germany against the Giants, and even still, like it's looking rough. Like when you spend a number one overall pick on a guy like Bryce Young, and he looks like the flat out worst quarterback in the league. That's including like rookies who played for the first time yesterday that didn't look good. We'll get into some of those later, but it's just if you're a Panthers fan, it's disheartening. And now you have probably the only good, like, let me not say the only good player because there are good players on that team, but Derek Brown out
One of
now.
the few
It's
bright spots.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Derek Brown out now, and it's tough, man. I feel bad for Panthers fans. But you'll have your draft pick at least this year, so I don't know if that's any consolation because last year you sure did not.
I'll be rooting for you to win games early, Panthers, but if you start losing a lot of games early, I'm going to be rooting for you to not win an entire game this season just for the memes. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, not to rub more salt in the wound, but Saints being only negative 200 on at least Hard Rock, I don't know what the other betting apps had them. Absolute steal. Like, I don't understand how it wasn't more projected to be more of a blowout on the Vegas odds, but we'll move on to the next topic, and this is one I think I'm a little bit iffy on. I know you might feel a little strongly about it, but Josh Allen, he played incredible, and given of course hopefully there's nothing too serious about that hand injury. Do you honestly think he has a chance at MVP?
I think that if the Bills have any shot of winning their division or making a playoff spot, he's going to have to play so freaking good that
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have to objectively put him in the MVP consideration. Like, he's going to have to carry this team like he did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not to say the Bills' defense is bad, but they didn't really play great yesterday. And just in general, it's going to be they don't have the playmakers on offense. It's Josh Allen's having to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of that way even when Stephon was there, but it's
Now it's even
definitely a lot
more
worse now.
heightened. Yeah, I mean
Um,
they have some guys who can make some plays. Like Shakir had a couple really good plays, but like you're asking guys like Shakir or Coleman to be like your number one, and it's just like no. I mean you're really asking a lot from Allen to basically will that franchise to wins. And I will say this: I have them before the season. I had them third in the division. If they somehow end up winning the division or even coming second and getting a playoff spot, he probably is the MVP. Like I can't imagine a world where he's probably not MVP with that, especially given how some of these guys started this week. So it's going to be interesting, but I don't think it's too much of an overreaction to say he's definitely probably going to the front runner as of right now. I mean, that's not really saying much. It's week 1, but it looks very possible, especially if the Bills offense looks a lot better than we expect. And I also just want to give a shout out to the Cardinals. We're going to get into them in our recap later on this week, but they look pretty good. They gave that Bills defense a run for their money, so shout out to them as well.
also, our next overreaction is an unfortunate one for the rest of us in this league, unfortunately, as somehow, thank you, Bills, by the way,
Yeah.
we allowed the Kansas City Chiefs to get Tyreek Hill 2.0 Fastest man alive, Xavier Worthy. He is nothing but pure speed. This guy is going to be a problem.
No, most definitely going to be a problem. And really, the more I look at that receiving core, like there are still questions about Worthy coming in because it's with every rookie. But yeah, Hollywood Brown now. You got Xavier Worthy. You got Rashee Rice, who still looks great. I mean, we don't talk about him off the field, but on the field, he's unfortunately great for the Kansas City Chiefs. And you still have Travis Kelce there. It's going to be crazy for this Kansas City Chiefs team. Worthy looked incredible in his debut. He had that long touchdown, and I think he had two, right? I'm not crazy. Yeah, he definitely had two.
He had one on the jet sweep, which I think was more
Mhm.
impressive. The,
That's what
the
I was
one on the
talking about. Yeah.
outside was just busted coverage. I
Hmm.
mean, he made a hell of a catch, but it was just busted coverage. The corner just I don't know what Marlon Humphrey was doing, to be honest with you. But the jet sweep, I mean, he
Hmm.
was just
Just outran everyone on
lightning
the
quick,
field. Hmm. You saw
lightning
that
quick.
4.2 4.21 speed, right? I think it was 4.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
4-2-1, yeah, and that doesn't always equate to good receivers. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've seen guys like John
John.
Ross and people like
Mm-hmm.
that before who just it just doesn't equate. Andy Isabella is another really good example of that, but I-
Madden
he's
legend.
he is something, and I'm very irritated for self the rest of the league that
Why
somehow
the
they got a
Chiefs of
good
all
receiver
teams? It's
room.
just
Yeah, I don't know,
and
but yeah,
it's insane
he's gonna be
because,
electric this season.
like you said, the Bills could have really used him, but he's gonna be nasty in Kansas City. Tyreek Hill 2.0 is such an easy cliche to write, but it's the truth. I mean,
He's that fast.
hmm
Speaking of new additions, Saquon Barkley
oh yeah,
might put up record-breaking numbers this season behind that Eagles offensive line because holy moly did he welcome himself into Philadelphia this week with his absolute gangbusters game in Brazil. 3 touchdowns and just nothing he did particularly was overly like impressive compared to what he's done in the past.
he has a
It's
good
just so
offensive
much
line.
abjectly
Hmm.
different now that he has an actual offensive line and he isn't trying to do so much extra work that he's normally used to.
I will say the over the shoulder reception in
No,
the
that
for
was
the
nice.
touchdown that was really nice. And
That was
I
nice.
mean, just such a great receiving back to add already to this receiving core is just incredible. Obviously, me as an Eagles fan, I'm really excited to see Saquon Barkley just annihilate. We've had guys like Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift who have been good at the running back role, but you, especially now, seeing Miles Sanders in Carolina, DeAndre Swift, we'll see with the Bears, but they look okay. Saquon Barkley was already a great player, looks incredible with this offensive line. It's one game, but he could easily be the rushing leader. He can, dare I say,
Boy
have,
candidate.
dare I say,
Week one, oh boy candidate.
he might be first team All Pro. Dare I say, maybe 2,000 yards from scrimmage is a possibility. Like, might sound a little crazy. I don't know if I'd go that far yet, but it's a possible. I think it's a possibility. I'm just super excited. This Eagles offense also looks just a lot better than they did last year when they kind of just died. Jalen Hurts has kind of been the main issue just because the decision making in that game was honestly terrible, but they were able to overcome it and got the W. So I'm happy as an Eagles fan, and Saquon, keep doing your thing. Just not against my fantasy team.
Speaking of poor fantasy performers, Deshaun Watson is terrible. And we're going to overreact and say that he's not going to end this season as the Browns starting quarterback. I don't care how much money they're paying him. He is horrid.
No, he's been absolutely horrid, and it really, we haven't seen him play good football since 2019 I mean, was it 2020, the AFC championship game, or
Championship
not
game.
championship, the
Yeah,
one
against
before
the
that,
Chiefs. The one
semifinals.
that they blew that insane
Mm-hmm.
leading to the Chiefs.
But
Um,
they,
to give Deshaun Watson some decent credit,
mm-hmm,
he was mauled all game long
mm,
by just an atrocious attack from the Dallas Cowboys, but he still looked terrible, like
mm,
horrible. And at some point in time, he didn't look good at all last season. He hasn't looked good in this game, at least. Some point in time, it might just be let Jameis Winston throw. Like, what do you got to lose? You've
it's,
wasted years of Miles Garrett and Nick Chubb. You might never get Nick Chubb back, like
mm,
realistically, like what he was. You're just wasting Myles Garrett's career. I We're gonna see a QB change this season. I'm telling you for the Browns.
It's kind of getting to that point where it's already a PR nightmare. His play has been terrible on the field. At some point, you just have to cut bait and just deal with the damages. I mean, we've seen teams do it in the past. We saw, ironically, the Eagles do it with Carson Wentz. We've seen a few other teams just outright cut players they're paying huge contracts, and we're getting pretty close to that point with the Browns and Deshaun Watson. I don't know how long he's given. If he's not performing well halfway into the season and they're not at least 500, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I again because of the PR nightmare that he is because of his
Mm-hmm.
off-field scandals. For them to have wasted all that money and wasted all that draft capital to bring him in, you kind of have to overcome that with the talent in order for you to be worth it to
Mm-hmm.
continue to have that PR nightmare. And
It's
if
just not there.
you're not shining that, what's the point? It's like at that point, it's not worth it. Um, Not that there's any PR nightmares here, but speaking of terrible quarterbacks, Daniel Dimes somehow got outplayed by IC Ghost himself, Sam Darnold. Apparently, the Jets were the problem because Sam Darnold is elite now,
I,
and it's
I
fun.
I wouldn't go that far. It's a fun overreaction to have, definitely. The Vikings might not be the worst team in the league, like everyone was saying. I think they'll win 6 to 7 games, but
Nope.
it's fun to see Sam Darnold slinging the rock. He's got competent receivers now, and even still, like this Giants team, man, it is rough. Daniel Jones, who there's a
It's
QB
insane
chain.
to me that they had already bottomed it out, and
Mm-hmm.
they went and like they had all these drafts like consecutively of getting all these like top picks. They got uh Thibodeau, they got Evan Neal, they got Saquon, they got Daniel Jones, they got a bunch of these other high end guys, and yet now it looks like they're gonna have to bottom it out again
Mm,
because they lost McKinney. There's all pro safety who balled out for the Packers.
mm-hmm.
They lost Saquon, their all pro running back who balled out for the Eagles. They're kind of left with a bare bones team, and like I feel bad for Brian Dable because he's an excellent coach, but
And he might.
his one coaching season let made Daniel Jones look so good that they paid him all this money, and they're gonna have to cut him. Like uh,
Mm-hmm.
he's terrible.
And
He's
the crazy
horrible.
part is too, Dayball might be the fall guy for it all too, which would be absolutely terrible because I think he's a great
When they win
coach.
5 games this
Mm-hmm.
season, he's gonna get fired, and it's 100% because he's like the Giants didn't play bad defense. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't play
They've
great
got a
defense, but it
pretty
wasn't
they've
bad.
got a pretty decent defense, all things considered. Like that front four is one of the best in the league, and it's just, I mean, it's the offense. I mean, it starts with the quarterback. It's Daniel Jones, and it's unfortunate for Giants fans.
Yeah, I
I will pose this question: over under 5.5 games before he's benched. I might be being too mean with that number, but over under 5.5 games. Let's make it 6.5. 6.5.
under. I don't
Under.
know when they
Wow.
play Carolina, by the way, but I swear to God, if they lose to Carolina, he's not the quarterback after that.
Hmm.
Um, but under. The report just came out today. Like they were, Dable was asked just today, is he still going to get all the starting quarterback reps?
Hmm.
Dable said yes, but the fact that it's already being asked,
Hmm.
it's under 6 games. I promise you,
Especially because Drew Lock had a decent run like the few games Geno Smith was out last year. So like
100%.
Drew Lock might honestly be like a way better option than Daniel Jones. Like I don't even think that's exaggerating. It's not like Drew Lock's some saint over here, but he can be your backup quarterback, step in, win some games, which Dable's gonna have to do if he wants to keep his job, unfortunately.
He'd have to keep the locker room like
Mm,
those like. It's infuriating. I feel bad for Giants fans. I cannot believe they paid this dude so much money, which was so obviously a 1 year fluke of a season. Like
mm,
it was the most obvious 1 year fluke of a season, and it wasn't even that impressive of a fluke season, but it got him paid, and
yeah. I mean,
props to him, I
I'm
guess. But
happy
he's
as an
terrible.
Eagles fan,
He's
but it's
horrible.
yeah. I feel for Giants fans though. I will say that.
Thankfully, not all quarterbacks in this league are terrible, because Anthony Richardson, AR-15 himself, is dynamic. Holy hell, is he dynamic?
He looked really good, really good.
Yeah, I mean, he blew my socks off the start of last season before he got injured, and he made some bomb throws yesterday.
That arm is for real.
A cannon. It's a cannon. He's got the sweet feet of Lamar and the cannon of Josh Allen. It is insane.
Now let's not go
lost
too
the game.
Let's not go too crazy and say he's going to be a high. I mean, I guess can be a hybrid. I'm not saying he's going to be on each end, like a Josh Allen level, But he
has the talent and capability to be that good and dynamic on both ends, though. He really does. He missed some wide open throws for Adonai Mitchell, both deep ones, but even still, he hit Alex Pierce deep twice, and it was beautiful. Just straight beautiful bombs.
Yeah, and this is a team that in the Colts that I think was kind of being a little underrated, like in the whole process. They still, outside chance to win the division against the Texans. I think they probably have the second best chance. I might be being a little mean to Jacksonville. I mean, maybe I am. I don't know if I'd go that far, but even still, like this Colts team,
it's not
especially
the Titans.
No, definitely not. If I'm being honest here, like, if Anthony Richardson plays like an elite player, they have a real chance of this division. And, we kind of saw it last year. It was only a 4-game sample size. A lot of people are like, hey, it's 4 games. Like, let's calm down. 3.5, really. Like, let's calm down. But there's a lot of positive things to see here if you're a Colts fan. And he looks like he's going to be a very exciting player, which we need because some of these quarterbacks starting lately have been, I mean, it's a little crazy.
Quarterback play in the league is so bad, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I
feel like we were spoiled, like, because when we grew up, we had all these greats, and then those greats were kind of phased in by other greats. Like, we had that middle section, even like when Peyton Manning was retiring, we still had like that middle section of Big Ben was still around decent for a few seasons. Russell Wilson was there. Drew Brees was still there. Rodgers was still great. And it seems like now, post Brady, quarterback play is just like, even like, I feel like back when we watched football when we were like teens, the bad teams didn't have atrocious quarterback play.
I will say this: I still feel like the top echelon quarterbacks, like your Mahomes, Allens, Jacksons,
those are still there.
They're all time. They're like as great as like we've seen, but the middling pack and the bottom is just as bad as we've seen in a while.
That's what I think is missing though. There isn't really a middle.
It's like the middle's Kirk
really
Cousins,
great
maybe.
Ones.
Like, and even he didn't look good.
There's your elite, you're good, and it just feels like everything else is garbage. Like there doesn't seem to be like a lot of middle class quarterbacks. Like Derek Carr is, I feel like, still a middle class quarterback, but I mean, he's playing above that now, apparently.
It's against Carolina. Let's
just
chill
across
out a little bit, but
it does also feel like the league has taken a priority over youth now. Everyone's like, oh, we gotta get this young quarterback starting right now. And these kids just aren't ready. They're either not ready or they're not good. Like we had to sit through a season and a half, 2 seasons of Kenny Pickett. Hopefully we never have to see that again. But just still overall, and it'll kind of phases into our next topic.
As I say,
Drop Mayo, clearly brilliant idea to let Drake May sit and kind of start Jacoby Brissett, because I don't see how Drake May would have done better in his rookie debut than Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, or Jaden Daniels did. All 3 of them had underwhelming performances. Jaden Daniels probably had the best of the 3, and it's not even close. Caleb Williams didn't look good at all. Bo Nix didn't look good at all. Jaden Daniels didn't look great. He looked fine, but they were all very underwhelming. Not that Jacoby Brissett for the Patriots was amazing, but he played competently and won them the game. Sometimes letting your quarterback sit's not the worst thing in the world. Other times it is. When, I mean, Justin Herbert should have been starting from day one, and that was a different story. Thankfully, he ended up getting starting. But Jordan Love sitting for all those years clearly paid off.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think about too, because
and I questioned it for 4 straight years.
We dogged the Packers. We dogged the Packers.
We did.
Really,
Every single season, I'm like, this guy's a bust.
if you look back at most QBs, like Aaron Rodgers, for example, he sat behind for a while. There's a Mahomes sat behind
Tom Brady
Alex
sat
Smith for a
for
year.
most of the entire
Hmm.
season.
It's we're I don't think it's an accident that some of these players are like that. Many of these players who are like great now did end up sitting behind for a year. Now, I'm also a believer in like if you can play, you can play, but confidence
Yeah.
is so key. Like there's a middle ground to it, and
It's confidence and just overall understanding of the game. Having talent doesn't equate to you being good at football. Yeah, you can throw the ball well and maneuver yourself well, but if you can't read a goddamn defense, what the hell does it matter?
hmm
You're going to get picked off every play if you don't have good decision making, if your mechanics aren't good, if releasing the ball at a certain point, like in this throw, is so critical. And in general, offensive line play is so terrible. You're throwing all these brand new rookies who've had these amazing offensive lines in college into terrible offensive line situations. They don't know what to do. They're moving back, dancing around. They're walking into sacks. They're throwing picks because they don't know how to react. The veterans know what to do. They've been there. They're poised. It's not the worst decision. I think in the long run, it'll help Drake May's development out. Not to say that Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, or Jaden Daniels, and any of them are busts. They were just all extremely underwhelming. Caleb Williams specifically, for all this hype and talk, I mean,
and he
just
has all the weapons. It feels like.
stinker,
Hmm.
stinker of a game. They somehow won that game, even though the offense
Defense
was
absolutely
putrid.
carried. I believe they had 2 defensive touchdowns, and
They
you
did
know
punt block return, and I think a pick six
that's what
because
it was.
Will
Yeah,
Levis
once.
is
Hmm.
garbage.
But
Sorry, Will Levis.
yeah, just I mean, I think we'll see them bounce back, especially in Caleb Williams' case. I don't know so much about like Bo Nix, for example, because that Denver team just isn't really great, and I was never high on him. But there's just,
Mhm.
like I said, man, the middling quarterbacks and even the bottom of the bottom is just as bad. Like I don't understand how we've gotten to the point where Daniel Jones is a starter for fifth year in a row now. I don't understand how like just a lot
I
of
don't
these
know.
guys like it's crazy to me.
Yeah, again, it really does have to do with I mean, and it's crazy because like a few years ago, I would have told you about like I would consider both Baker and Jared Goff in that bottom echelon of
Hmm.
quarterbacks. They were that bad. They've both come a
Played
long way. I
real.
think they were
Hmm.
just both in situations that didn't work for them. It's all about the situation for the quarterback. And unfortunately, a lot of these rookies either won't get second chances because you don't really get that many chances at a quarterback anymore, um, or they're gonna just have to figure it out with the team that they were drafted by. But
Hmm.
I mean, Trey Lance is still just rotting away on Dallas now. I mean, I don't know. Biggest overreaction of the week still. Patriots are going 17-0.
Oh.
Nothing you can say will stop me from thinking that. Super Bowl's on the way.
We'll see how that looks like last next week. But Eagles going 17-0 though,
Nah.
totally. Yeah, definitely. Number one seed in the NFC, Jalen Hurts MVP, he won't throw another pick for the year. Nah, let me chill out. But
Ooh, let us know down in the comments below what's your biggest overreaction in week one and why is it the Patriots are going 17-0. But like, subscribe, please. Thank you for listening. I am Jacob. This is Chris. This has been the Net Report.
yep, thank you for tuning in.